This segment of the show is Cheers to That with our friends at Yeti.
As a kid growing up, there was the expectation that I should ride bulls good because I was Lane's cousin.
Right.
And I definitely got to where I rode bulls good because my dad was, made me practice. And
right.
But there was always that little push always helped, like those days you didn't believe in yourself.
Rodeo time. Welcome to the Luke Branquinho Show. This next guest, when you hear his name, you'll know it's very familiar in the world of rodeo and the world of bull riding. It's a great honor to have you on, Josh, man. Josh Frost. Watching your career has been amazing.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
You know, one thing I can remember is, I can't remember if it's true. I said I remember. Trevor Knowles and I were going to Las Vegas to the El Dorado days. And he said, man, I got another mount. And I was like, okay, who's that? And he's like, Josh Frost. I'm like, wait, that kid's a bull rider. But I didn't know, but you are one hell of a hand in the timed events too. I mean, a lot of people know you win the Linderman, but they don't know that, in my opinion, you can compete for the all-around world championship and, have a chance at making the NFR in those other two events.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my goals in the calf roping. There's days in the steer wrestling. I don't know if that's realistic, but I said I've spent a lot of time. I don't recreationally rope calves, or my steer wrestling slowed down the last couple of years. But man, through college, I steer wrestled a bunch, and I actually made the college finals once in the steer wrestling. And so I said I love both the events, loved practicing them, and that's why I still enter them today. Is because I just appreciate the challenge of competing, and I've got a lot of respect for all the events, but especially what you guys do and what the calf ropers do, because I know how much harder and time I've spent in the practice pen in those events,
right, compared
to my bull riding. And I'm a long ways right now from being a top 15 guy in the steer wrestling and calf roping, and I'm one of the best in the bull riding.
Yeah. Well, over 1.5 million in career earnings in the PRCA, little over 400,000 in the PBR. And you take other events that you've been to. You have well over $2 million in career earnings, and that's obviously majority of it comes from the bull riding. And you got one NFR average championship, runner up to the world championship in the bull riding. Your career's been so impressive in the bull riding, and obviously, if I don't touch on this, I feel like the world would hate me, because being a cousin of Lane Frost, a legend in the sport, and knowing Cody Lambert, he said Lane was going to have multiple world championships, and it was an awesome human being. To have that and being able to feed off that, has that helped catapult your career?
Oh, it definitely has, which as a kid growing up, I still get it a lot. Oh, your cousin's Lane. But as a kid growing up, there was the expectation that I should ride bulls good because I was Lane's cousin.
Right.
And I definitely got to where I rode bulls good because my dad was, made me practice. And
right.
But there was always that little push always helped, like those days you didn't believe in yourself, or like, especially as a kid. As a kid, you have a lot of doubts, and getting on big steers and bulls are kind of scary. And that was something that, the success I had at a young age helped through that. But then, having that Frost last name, there was, I ride bulls because I love it, but part of that love came from it being ingrained in me at a young age. Like, this is what I do, this is the family legacy. And, there was pressure as a kid that probably affected me a little bit negatively, just because I was Lane's cousin didn't mean I was going to ride good. I was still scared like half the kids there. Just because I was Lane's cousin didn't make it any easier, but it's been, like I said, I love the family legacy now, and I take a lot of pride in it. And I even enjoy talking about it, because no different than the Wrights and the other successful rodeo families. Like, I think it's cool to see those families that have that long rodeo history, and the people keep it going.
Well, and you speak about legacy, and there's world champions that have passed at a young age, or just have passed, but the Frost legacy is something that has exploded. And my boys have, the Frost brand caps and everything there. I believe it's in Atoka, right? is where that's out of. And, you know, for what your family has done to continue that legacy of such a great athlete, it's huge for your family, but it's huge for the sport, because you see people wearing Frost brand hats and shirts that really maybe not necessarily know much about rodeo, but they know this guy, he was the man, and you guys continue that legacy. And I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. Stetson Frost is who runs that. He'd be Lane's nephew, and he kind of just started it as a side gig. You know, Clyde and Elsie forever got people, you know, messaging and wanting something from Lane, right. And them being the nice people they are. I mean, they gave away a lot of stuff they probably shouldn't have, just because they were, right. I mean, they'd give away the shirt off their backs if somebody asked for it. And so Stetson had kind of started that to kind of continue the legacy, and felt like there was people that were very interested. And then, you know, within, I think, a year and a half, he quit his real job and was going full time with it. And that's what he talks about a lot, is there's so many people right now in the world that don't have great people to look up to. And Lane was one of those guys that is a great hero and set the standard for what it meant to be a cowboy. And so he's tried to keep that legacy alive through the clothing brand. And, you know, the Lane Frost brand stands for everything Lane did. And so it's been cool seeing that. And it's cool to see how many people still to this day are, you know, look up to him and passionate about what he did for the sport.
Right. Another Frost, your brother Joe, I knew him a little bit better when I was rodeoing, because obviously we're similar to the same age, and made the NFR, was a world champion contender, and then injury hit, and it was his leg, broke his leg, right, and ended his career.
Yep. Yeah, he'd had some trouble. He got a blood clot when he was 17 years old. And then he got stepped on again when he was like 22, got another blood clot. And then that was kind of what did him in, was he broke his leg, and just the break wasn't bad. Tandy was like, just throw this walking boot on, and, you know, when it quits hurting, take it off. And about 2 weeks later, just from not moving around, he ended up that his leg clotted up. And at that point, and then they couldn't get that blood clot to go away. And so it was the blood clots was what finally did him in. And so he takes blood thinners every day now, because if he don't, he will get blood clots. But that's, besides that, he's, you know, just kind of got to be careful if he gets cut, but he lives a very active lifestyle and does pretty much everything anybody would want to do besides ride bulls. So, yeah,
it was sad, because again, somebody so talented, and his career got cut short because of something like that. But another Frost, Jate, I keep seeing his name in the standings. He's making his way up. What's the age difference between you and him?
6 years.
So was his rookie year last year? When was his rookie year?
His rookie year was, I think last year was his rookie year. I think it would have been 21. 21 he was doing really good that year. It was his second year on his permit. Mm-hmm. I think he'd won about 45,000 and was starting to enter some of the big rodeos to get his feet in the water. And he got in a bad car wreck at Pendleton. They were up there for the rodeo, went to get on some practice bulls, and came around a corner and went under the back of a potato truck.
Oh, man.
And it fractured. He had like 150 fractures in his face, and it was a pretty scary deal. And so he was a year off from that, and then came back in 23 last year was the first year he was cleared and back to rodeoing. And so he was a little rusty after not riding for a year, but he's been, like I said, you're going to see his name a lot more. He's been working hard at it. He's been on more practice bulls than probably anybody in the world the last 4 months. So
Sanderson Ford is celebrating.
Ow! Can he slow it down a bit?
Hey, Randy, turn down the heat.
That's perfect. We're celebrating our 69th anniversary sale.
Now during the Mighty Fine 69 anniversary sale, get home run deals like these.
Get 1.9 financing on F-150 trucks. Get 0% financing plus $1,000 flex buy cash on new Escapes.
Catch the savings at Sanderson Ford,
a proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Well, again, it's cool to see, you know, obviously cousin Lane, brother Joe, you, and now your younger brother, and just kind of keeping that rolling. And it's all fun for me, since I don't rodeo anymore, to look in the standings and see guys that I've rodeoed with, either their siblings or even now I'm so old, they're kids. That makes me feel really old. Jeez. Speaking of kids, you and your wife Erica are expecting a little girl in August, right?
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
We're super excited about that. It was kind of funny. Usually I feel like it's the girl that's wanting to have kids, and she last year was her rookie year in the breakaway open. So she was pretty committed to the breakaway open. And I'm like, man, my older brother has 2 kids, and Jade actually has a little girl. And so I was seeing their kids and already seeing them start to grow up. And I'm like, man, this looks like a lot of fun. So I was pressuring her a little bit. And then after this last year, she was like, okay, I guess we can go ahead and try. And so she is excited now, but at the time she was like, man, but there's all these rodeos. And I'm like, well, you can go to the rodeos after you have kids. That's what's cool about the breakaway. There's no timetable.
Well, hell, for that matter, Jackie Crawford was 8 months pregnant when she won the world championship. I mean, from the sounds of it, if she has a good winter and keeps rolling, you have the baby and then be ready for the finals.
Yeah.
Is that something you better be? I bet she's pushing for that.
So that was part of what convinced her in it. She was just shy of getting into the big winter rodeos. I think she ended up like 65th in the world. And so I was like, well, I'm not saying you can't make the NFR next year without the big winter rodeos, but it's a little harder in the breakaway right now without those. And I was like, realistically, what's probably going to happen is best case scenario, you make it, but there's a good chance you're probably going to end up like 25th. And then the next year you're going to be in the big winter rodeo. So then you're going to be like, let's wait one more year. And that was, we since we'd been married, she'd always said she wanted to start having kids before she turned 30. And, which I think she's 27. So I was like, if we keep pushing this back, we're going to be getting up there. And
we're getting close, baby. We're getting close. Let's start having them. Well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations on that. Obviously I got 3 boys. So, I was gone. What's cool about your situation is you guys can go travel together and be in the same rig. And, I was gone the majority of my boys' young life because in a bulldog, which you know as well as anybody in the bulldog, and you got 4 guys in one rig, and it's hard to throw a stroller, a car seat, a baby, and a wife in there. So, man, you're going to get to all the fun times with the kids. And I missed a lot of that, but I'm trying to make up for it now.
Heck yeah. Yeah, no, we've got it set up pretty good now, I think. And I'm doing the PBR teams again this year. And so it kind of times out well. So once I'm shooting to be sitting really good in the world standings come middle of, right there around the start of August. So when PBR teams start, I'll probably slow down on the PRCA rodeos a bit and just focus on the teams so I can be home all week and help a little more and be there for as much of it as I can.
Yeah, and last year you got drafted number 2 draft pick. I got to experience that obviously on the back of the buck and shoots. And I wanted to pick your brain on that because, rodeo is usually an individual sport. Now we're starting to venture out into teams with PBR teams. Then we got the Kid Rockin' Rodeo with, timed event and obviously the 2 rough stock events and the horse riding. What are your thoughts? How did you get used to being more of a team concept in the bull riding?
I honestly it was a learning aspect coming from the point where you've always, different motivations, I guess, when you're competing against yourself. Like I really, I guess I'm dialed into what gets me into the zone and how I perform my best. And there was a little bit of a learning curve that first year of the new pressures, as well as, different scenarios that the teams add into it. But from the times when I watched it, which I didn't do it the first year because I was like, I'm just going to kind of watch and see how this goes. And watching it, like, I honestly like it better than regular bull riding. Like, not only are you now watching the guys you like, it adds a whole new drama aspect of what's the next rider going to do? Can this guy come in and make the whistle and win the game? It was, like I said, I've enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's looking forward to see where it takes the sport.
Well, I had a really good seat from right behind the buck and shoots, and I felt like the bulls you got on, they were no days off. I mean, it seems like there was always that one rider where they're like, okay, this bull's he's not the best one. He's kind of tricky, might throw some junk at you, his rank. And, and I always felt like if I seen that bull, I would see your name next to him. I mean, was that your role you felt like for the Cowboys?
Yeah. And that was part of the team dynamic. And, the learning part of it was, I feel like everybody has a role on the team. And I was happy to step up to the role to be the guy that got on the hard bull because statistically speaking, I probably ride the harder to ride bulls better than anybody out there. I'd stretched myself a little thin last year. I mean, I was probably only giving myself about 1 day off a week. I was going to the PRCA rodeos Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then riding at teams on the weekends, and probably got hit in the head a few more times last year than a guy should have. And so my riding percentage at the teams wasn't what I know it can be, but it's one of them ones. I was happy to get on those bulls because I realistically thought I could make the whistle on them. And there's other scenarios where you see teams they'll throw their worst guy on the hard bull, just thinking that, that guy probably has no chance in the world of riding him. And we were, like I said, somebody's got to have that role, and I was glad to step up to the plate. I just would have liked to perform a little better in a few of those scenarios, but that was part of the learning curve,
Well, yeah, and statistically, like you said, the Cowboys had Cooper Davis, Sage Kimsey, you. I mean, your team was stacked, and obviously had to be a little disappointing to not end up in the championship round like you guys expected to. I mean, was there – and I was curious because you have so many stars on that team. Was there an expectation, obviously, in the locker room that we're going to win this championship?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially you've seen it rolling into Cheyenne. I mean, I think we tied for first at the event in Cheyenne. We got beaten in the bonus round.
Right.
But we also rolled into Cheyenne, and we had everybody healthy. And after Cheyenne, Sage breaks his collarbone. Dalen starts having some hip issues, and the team had really invested in getting 4 really good guys. So I wouldn't say we had a lot of depth after that. And so with the guys being hurt, that played a little bit of a factor in it. And it was cool to see, going into the finals, we finally had everybody relatively healthy. And I think if we could have had 2 or 3 events with everybody healthy, the finals goes a lot different because, we seen it at the finals. We just barely got beat out the first day. One bull ride was the deciding factor. And that's part of the scenario as an individual sport. If you're healthy, you get a win, but now we got to try to get 5 guys that are feeling good and then also have them all on the same page and get them all to be clicking at the same time.
As we continue on our cheers to that segment with our friends at Yeti, here on the Luke Branquinho Show, you guys sent us in recipes, and we're building them right here in my bar. Cincy Sullivan sent us in one it's pretty simple. It's a whiskey on the rocks. So I'm going to take my Yeti stackable, pop that off there, and throw me in a little bit of ice. And then I got this Stampede whiskey from the Calgary Stampede. This is my first time trying it. Kind of excited about that. We're going to go, again, just to feel. Cheers to that, Cincy Sully. Thank you for sending this delicious drink mix in. How is it, obviously Jerome Davis is icon in the bull ride, and to have him as a coach?
It's great. I honestly, I don't know if I'd ever actually got to meet Jerome until the team deal started. I've, watched a lot of videos of him.
Right.
Heard about him, all the guys that come, east of the Mississippi. We've spent time at Jerome's house, and he's been probably one of the biggest bull riding helper and producer of anybody that founded the PBR.
Right. And
so it was great getting to be around him. Like I said, he's probably one of the best guys I've ever met. And like I said, got a wealth of bull riding knowledge. And that was one of my factors for doing the teams, was try to put yourself around, get access to those champions and learn, always trying to get better to get to that next level. And I mean, you'd hit on it. I've won second in the world 3 years in a row. And so that was something for me. I was like, hey, maybe if I put myself in this situation and get to be around Cooper, Sage, have Jerome in my corner, and try to take that final leap to be the best.
Well, and you got Cooper, or you got, like you said, Cooper, Dalen, Sage, just in star-studded lineup. But I want to talk a little bit about Tiffany, because like that's team mom. She is so awesome to be around and visit with, and such an inspiration and a motivator.
Oh, she's the best. She, like I said, I've literally feel like she's your mother. And like I said, I hadn't known her but 2 days from the first time we went out there to team camp and feel like she took you under your wing. And, most of us bull riders are really organized all the time. And so she didn't have to do a whole lot to keep us in line, but she dang sure had her hands full keeping 7 bull riders a weekend in the right place at the right time, from being there for the event to the autographs, all the extra stuff. She takes care of all that, and we couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, and like I said, over 400,000 in career PBR earnings. That's UTB, the Pendleton, whiskey tour deal, and then now teams, and it makes it nice, I'd imagine, to instead of having to go to the UTBs, these teams deals where it's not. You're getting paid to show up, where UTBs, it's a little bit different. So, I mean, I think how the sport is transitioning is great for the athletes, but it's also great for the fans to see something a little different. And I know you're not able to compete in the Kid Rocks Rock and Rodeo, but what are your thoughts about that with the team concept and the red, yellow, green light start system and everything?
I mean, I haven't got to hear a whole bunch about it. I've read everything they put out, obviously, but I was visiting with a few of the steer wrestlers at the American, and they were all a little, from what I understand, they're 2 guys in the corner at the same time. The light goes green, and they were a little nervous about the whole steer wrestling horse being ready to nod at the same time. And so I think it's going to be, I'll dang sure be watching.
Well, it's really, you take a whole coaching aspect to it. The coach, when they drafted, they're like, okay, who has the best horse that can sit in the corner, and so, yeah, there was a whole process on how people in the timed events especially got drafted. So it'll be fun. I am the commissioner of it. I don't know. I think I'm way over my head on that, but we've been doing a lot of work trying to get things going in the right direction, but I do think it's going to be fun and exciting. I mean, PBR World Finals is going on the same time. I don't know that you'll be around because you're not going to the UTBs. You're just going to be PRCA Rodeo. So
yeah. With my plan of trying to focus, I was wanting to slow down at the rodeos and focus on teams this year.
Yeah.
When I started the year off in January, I had goals to be the PRCA World Champion, teams MVP, and make the PBR Finals. And after about 2 weeks, I got to looking at it. I'm like, man, I don't know if this is even. Your goals are supposed to be hard, but I got to looking at the rodeo count and all the things, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to actually be feasibly possible. And
right.
So I was like, I'm going to have to back off on these PBRs this winter and focus on these winter rodeos. So I'll be set up to go and focus on teams.
Yeah. WCRAs, I know you've had some success at those and have won quite a bit. I mean, I was around when those first started. Actually, I think you were too, but to be able to put your name down at a rodeo like Houston and then also enter the WCRAs and then have a chance to go to Corpus Christi for 25, 30,000. I mean, I think that's done a lot for the sport as well.
Oh, I've loved the WCRAs, and seems like it's been the rough stock guys, maybe at least the bull riders, I feel like haven't bought into it as well as the other events. But I tell people all the time, like, they're just wanting to give away money to cowboys. Mm-hmm. And it's set up to help us out. I mean, literally in the bull riding, like, you don't have to nominate I know what bull I've drawn at these PRCA rodeos before I even have to nominate.
Exactly.
Same going to these big multi-headers, these winter rodeos, like, you pay one nomination fee and you get points in each go round. And like, they do their Reliance Ranch bonus deal. Like, I'll nominate 5 rodeos and go make an extra $25,000.
Exactly. Crazy not to do that, right?
Yep.
Sanderson Ford is celebrating.
Ow! Can he slow it down a bit?
Hey, Randy, turn down the heat.
That's perfect. We're celebrating our 69th anniversary sale.
Now during the Mighty Fine 69 anniversary sale, get home run deals like these.
Get 1.9 financing on F-150 trucks. Get 0% financing plus $1,000 flex by cash on new Escapes.
Catch the savings at Sanderson Ford,
a proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
It's nuts. I know there are still. I mean, even in the rough stock riding, more so than the timed events, is where they haven't really bought into it. But man, you're right. You might only have to invest $1,000 or $1,500. I mean, and if you think you're the best and you don't do it, then you're crazy. Because if you think you're the best, you're crazy. You just need to do it because it's pretty well in anybody's bank account.
And then even going to their events, they let us, you literally get to pick the bulls, and which it goes off this point standings. But so if you've had a good year with the points, you roll in there, like you get the first pick out of 10 bulls, and you're telling me you can't pick one of those. You don't think you can make the whistle on like that's what I felt like. Right. Is they're just like, here, come take some money. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. And at first I told a lot of people, and finally I'm like, I'm tired of telling, like, if they can't figure it out, I'll just keep going and winning the money. So
yeah, why wouldn't I? Mean, I was same way. And like you said, and you talked about, what bull you're getting on. I would know what steer I had before I nominated, and you're crazy not to. It's like taking advantage. You're not taking advantage of something that could pay you really well in the end, and it really bugs me. I'm like you. I don't even talk to people about it anymore. Granted, I'm done rodeoing, but if they can't see that, I mean, there's no point. Talk to your blue.
For me, it's just frustrating because I feel like it's, like I said, they're trying to give money to cowboys and trying to grow the sport, and it's another opportunity, and it's one I've seen it really have it with the bull riding, with the WCRA, the PRCA, and the PBR. Like, it makes it hard to know what to do because there's so many opportunities to go and make good money that it's like, it's awesome right now where it's going. I just wish they had more support so they'd for surely keep doing it.
Well, and that's it. Support is huge from the athletes, and obviously they get a lot from the timed events, and hopefully in the rough stock they'll start getting a little more. I know Bobby Moat and Scott Davis, they're really trying to push it because they know what it was like to be on the road struggling as a cowboy. And this sounds bad, but I feel like some of these the new generation, maybe it's just me because I'm old, they don't understand that it used to be pretty tough out there.
No, I would say I'm not even in the generation, but you see it now, even especially in the bull ride, and there's 18-year-old kids that are rolling out there with a fully decked out Sprinter, and I don't know where they got it, but when I turned 18, I had a minivan with a mattress in the back, and I thought I was living the life. And
no, you're right. I had an old stock trailer that I put a plywood divider in, put my saddle racks, took caulking. That's funny little meme. Anyway, took caulking and caulked the whole inside so water wouldn't leak in, and put a mattress up there. Didn't insulate it. It was a cold sumbitch in the wintertime, but that's how we rodeoed.
Yeah. And at the time you probably thought, this is awesome. Living the dream.
Exactly. I got a place to lay my head at night and a tack room, but
I don't got to sleep in the truck?
The old single cab back then in college days. And I'm jealous. I honestly am. I mean, I think you guys, you're not your generation, but where you're at now and the way rodeo's growing, we've had this talk with Cody Ole and Fred Whitfield, Joe Beaver. Had we been in our prime right now, what could we have accomplished? And just the money's so great with the American, the PBRs, the teams. I mean, WCRA, the PRCA, there's so much opportunity for a cowboy to, really it wouldn't be uncommon for a cowboy to win over $500,000. And that's, sponsorships and competing, if you were at the top of your game.
Oh yeah. And you're seeing it every year in the event, the top guy, and it's just getting better. Funny stat, last year I had, through doing the velocities and the PBRs and teams, I'd kind of set my deal with the PRCA that I'm not going to get, especially through the winter. I'm like, if they don't have 10,000 added, I'm not going to go to it. Well, when the season got over, I got to looking at it, and I think I had 76 rodeos that I went to, and I think 70 of them had 10,000 or more added.
Oh, wow.
Like, and that was at a minimum. Like that was, and I went to 6 of the smaller ones, but like you get to looking through, and there's still that it's frustrating for the time event guys because there still are some of those rodeos that are half money for you guys, but it's getting better across the board for everybody. But I remember back in, even 2015, 16, like if you went to a $10,000 added rodeo, you were like, oh yeah, this sucker's about to pay good. And now they still pay good, but it's like, I'll pass over a $10,000 added one because it's not that there's 4 other rodeos that are bigger that weekend that I can go to.
Right. I know when I was going, obviously, like you said, there wasn't as many $10,000 added rodeos, but I would skip over a $10,000 added rodeo to go to a $7,000 added rodeo that I knew I had always won at, had success. And that $10,000 rodeo I may have hit on my ear every time. Do you feel like you still enter rodeos kind of where you've had success?
I do. I kind of learned this from my brother. He was about like you. There would be the rodeo that he hit on his ear 2 or 3 times. And sometimes those were the $20,000 added ones. So he just wouldn't enter them. So I've kind of made it my philosophy that like, I make it my goal to make that rodeo good. So if it's a rodeo that and there's probably still a few out there, but if I've never done good, Salinas was one. I've been there 10 times, never did good, but I was like, I'm going to make this my honey hole. And then finally went this year, won the whole thing. And so I feel like having that attitude dang sure helps, but you've just got to balance the entering. And that was what was cool with getting to go with Joe for a couple of years, my brother. And then I started entering with Sage, seeing the different philosophies of, Sage went strictly money. He looked at the Business Journal, and whichever rodeo he went to the biggest money rodeos that weekend. His theory was the biggest rodeos. You've got the best guys, the best bulls. That's where I want to win first, and didn't prioritize travel.
Right.
Joe focused more on the like, hey, yeah, there's one that's 15,000 over here, but this one's 3 hours from the house and has 7,000. Let's save our bodies and just ease up over here. And so it's if you're riding your bulls, doing it Sage's way, you make a lot more money, but you're also spending, like I said, we're $25,000 on flights through the season.
Yeah, air miles. Get those air miles racked up. First question from Plum Fairy 20. What is the worst injury you have ever had from steer wrestling? Stay tuned, and I will answer that question a little bit later on in the show. There's so much truth to that. And even like us timed eventers, I would do the same thing. And I mean, as well as anybody, the runs on your horses aren't what wears them out. It's those road miles traveling, beating up and down the road in the trailer. So we would kind of do similar things, obviously over the 4th of July, you might be in Springdale, Arkansas, and then St. Paul, Oregon within a day and a half of each other. But for the most part, we tried to, draw a circle and keep it in just so to keep the miles down on the horses. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I've noticed since I've started getting a little older. It's not the bull riding that makes me sore. I can be home and like I notice it in FR training, I'll get on a practice bull every day for 30 days. I feel great. But that's when I got to look and I'm like, it's not actually the bull riding. It's sitting in that dang truck that's making me freaking so sore all the time. And so I've had to start learning to prioritize the travel a little bit as I've gotten older and, maybe give myself 2 or 3 days off during the week and listen to my body a little more so I can stay healthy to keep performing at a high level.
I learned that. I learned that early in my career too. I'd get guys that would drive and I'd just lay back in the trailer, say, get us there safe. I wasn't very good at driving, feeding, saddling. Everybody I rodeoed with, man, from the time I started to end of my career, they were amazing people to be with. And it was a family. I mean, as well as anybody, when you travel with somebody that many days out of the year, you better get along. You better have a lot in common, because if not, it could be pretty nasty.
Yeah, I've found that traveling partners are about like a roommate. You end up liking each other way more or realizing you don't like that person very much.
Oh, that is so true. That is so true. Something I want to talk about is 2020 COVID year. Rodeo got shut down. But we had a resurgence, and the first one was the Cave Creek Rodeo. I see you're entered there this year. Cave Creek kind of said, you know what? We're tired of this. We're going to step up. We're going to break some rules, and we're going to have ourselves a rodeo. And, it's pretty cool that they were the first ones to kind of break open the rodeo world again.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to that one in 2020, but I remember sitting at home watching it. That was technically, so I got hurt really bad in 2020 at Fort Worth. I got stepped on. They ended up having to take out my spleen, stitch my pancreas up. It was kind of a bad deal. So I was laying in the hospital when I'm hearing all this COVID stuff. And I'm like, then I hear this rumor that they're going to cancel Houston. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way this. And then sure enough, everything gets shut down. I get out of the I mean, I was 2 weeks in the hospital. I got home just before stuff really got crazy. And
wow,
that was Cave Creek was the only rodeo I had to miss that year. With everything shutting down, it kind of worked out in my favor. But I remember sitting at home wishing I was at Cave Creek. And like I said, they definitely, if Cave Creek doesn't have their rodeo, who knows when we would have started rodeo in that year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they really blew the doors open, because after Cave Creek, there was one in Utah that was maybe the next one that I went to anyway. What was that one called? Oh man, it's your circuit. You should know.
Eagle Mountain.
Eagle Mountain. That's it. Yep. Eagle Mountain was the next one I believe I went to after Cave Creek. And, and then obviously the Midwest states, South Dakota was huge, is opening everything back up. And I'm like you, if Cave Creek doesn't do it, who is going to step up to the plate? And man, I think everybody in the rodeo world is so pumped. I don't think they've ever had that many entries, obviously. And I don't know that they ever will, just because everybody was just itching to get to the next rodeo.
Well, that was, I wouldn't say it was a blessing in disguise, but a little bit, especially for those small rodeos. And I mean, I went to rodeos in 2020 that I probably never would have went to. And that was what was so cool to remind us about the PRCA, like the smaller rodeos that, I didn't hardly go to anymore. You probably hadn't been to for years. So those were all the ones that pulled it together and made it happen. I mean, especially there in August. I mean, we were rodeoing in August and September, but, I was going to Circle, Montana, Miles City, Rapid City, all these places that just didn't ever fit into the schedule. And I think those committees loved it. The fact that, they were, I don't think they could believe how many entries they got. And so it was pretty cool.
Sanderson Ford is celebrating.
Ow! Can he slow it down a bit?
Hey, Randy, turn down the heat.
That's perfect. We're celebrating our 69th anniversary sale.
Now during the Mighty Fine 69 anniversary sale, get home run deals like these.
Get 1.9 financing on F-150 trucks. Get 0% financing plus $1,000 flex by cash on new Escapes.
Catch the savings at Sanderson Ford,
A proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's rodeos I never went to until 20, and I'm going to say 80% of the cowboys that were there that year hadn't been to them, and so for those rodeos to step up to play, and again, you take those call them the flyover states that stepped up. It was huge I think it was huge for the sport, but it was also huge for the world to see. As cowboys, we don't back down. We're going to step up and face this, and keep going. We're going to keep living. And I think that was awesome that they were able to step up, do that. And now you see those rodeos starting to add more money too. So I think obviously COVID sucked, no doubt about that, but the outcome for the rodeo business and what it did to those rodeos, was a positive, I guess, impact.
Yeah, I think so too. Was a crazy year, but I think there was a lot of good that came out of it.
And Cave Creek, I feel like, was the one that started off, so that was pretty cool. Something else, I know we mentioned it earlier in the show, but the Linderman Award, you tie down roping and steer wrestling, and the honor that it means, because there's not near as many rough stock riders that work or cowboys that work both ends of the arena anymore. Back in 30, 40 years ago, it was pretty common that you steer wrestled, rope calves, and you also rode bulls or broncs or bears, and now it's not as common, but what an honor and a prestige to win that award.
Yeah, it's one I've set out every year to win it, and I was trying for 3 or 4 years before I won it the first time, but that's what a lot of people, I think the specialization's what you see more now. Right. There's so many people that have specialized for their specific event. It's made it to where like all those events are very elite. So there's still a large percentage of us that as we grow up, we all participate in multiple events, but there's less and less people that have worked hard enough at multiple events to be able to compete at a professional level. And, I think up till probably the late 90s, you still had, I don't know if the competition level was that deep to where you had more guys that were maybe entering multiple events, but it's got to where now, like, you can't just enter the tie down roping or steer wrestling and go and duck off and win money. Like it's not easy money. And that's what makes it so hard is like, I'm a consistent 5 to 6 second bulldogger. I mean, I'll make 5 to 6 second runs. And every year I've had to go crack one in 3.9 to 4.2 to win a check.
Right.
And it even going, like I said, and I try to go to the ones on paper you think would be easier. I'll slip over here to Rifle, Colorado. It's only got 2,000 out of there's 10 entries. And my 5.9, I think, won 8th place. And they brought all the steers that set up at Cheyenne. We're like, we'll take those over there to Rifle. And I'm like, this is perfect. And calf roping's the same way. I mean, there's been multiple rodeos. I went and ran one in 8.6 in and been 15th. And it's like the timed events are deep. And there's you'll see 1 or 2 rodeos a year where it's like, man, that guy won $1,000 being 15 seconds in the steer wrestling, but it only happens once or twice a year, and I'm never entered at that one.
Well, Josh, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Best of luck this year. I'm looking forward to seeing you at PBR teams, and also congratulations to you and your wife, Erica, on the baby girl expected in August.
You bet. Thanks for having me on. It's great visiting with you.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck. First question from Plum Fairy 20. What is the worst injury you have ever had from steer wrestling? Oh, there's been a lot. Most of them required surgery, but probably one of the worst would have to have been my hamstring when I popped it off the bone back in 21. Required surgery. I tried to finish out the rodeo year with one hamstring on my right side and not one on my left. So that's probably the worst one that I've ever had. Hey, you want to see more in-depth details on the Luke Branquinho Show? Make sure you like and subscribe.